had a similar personality. She would struggle to ask me help to washing the dishes. Like, I'm your partner. I'm here. I'm just scrolling through social media. Of course, I'm gonna help you with the dishes. I know, like, we were dating, so I knew, like, she would feel weak by asking, and me, I was like, why don't understand. And yeah, that's the point. Like, we're social creatures, we need each other. Like, but to this day, I don't understand, why would you think you would you bury so many of those emotions? Do you think it comes from this same idea of weakness?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting because there's a lot of um, there are a lot of really personal things in the book. I mean, it's my memoir, but it's also a lot of the book is just my learning from
Mm.
going through therapy. But I was very intimidated for a long time about sharing my story because I will talk about things if it's going to help someone understand something, but I don't just talk about myself easily. So so that was difficult, but um, I think what I hear from people a lot now, and people that write to me or reviews that I've gotten, is that people connect with that keeping things to themselves. And it's a bit what you said. And I actually I got an email from a trauma nurse who read my book. She read it in a day. She was doing an overnight shift and read the book most of the night too. And when she finished it, she wrote to me right away and she said, "You know, I have always seen myself as being super competent and I have everything covered. And you know, it's important in this job for people to look at me that way, but that's how I see myself." And she said, "This is a really hard job where there's a lot of sadness and a lot of trauma going on. And I always check in with other people to make sure they're doing okay. And I wish that people would check in with me, but I know that they don't because they think I've got it all covered." And she said, "And if people did check in with me, I would say I was fine so that they knew
Mm.
I was taking care of myself." And she said, "And then I go out and I hike or something to get to kind of deal with the trauma." And she said, I realized from reading your book that maybe I should get a therapist and start talking. But I think the reason why we don't talk about things that are so difficult is because they're so uncomfortable. It it creates like the emotions that we have when something awful happens, when something sad or traumatic or awful happens. Um, it's not just something that we think about. We actually feel that in our body and our memory. There's an explanation that right when I got triggered, I really started researching PTSD with uh, in the graduate library at the university I was going to, and one described our memory in a way that I really loved. It said memory is biology combined with biography. So the way that I interpreted that, the way they suggested it, is the biology is the actual feelings and sensations that we have in our bodies. So you might get hyper vigilant, you might get anxious, you might start breathing fast and feel jittery, all of those kind of things. That's the biology. You actually feel those emotions with sensations in your body. And then the biography is the story that we tell ourselves that we put to those emotions. And when we have something happen, the way we store those memories, the ones that are worth storing, is that we put a narrative or a story to the feelings that we had and we put it away in our memory. So we can pull it out when we want to, and we can put it away when we don't need it. But with post traumatic stress disorder, you don't put on, you have all of these sensations, all of these feelings, and you don't want to keep feeling those long enough to think it through and put a story to it. And so instead you shove it. You shove it. I relate it to shoving it in the back of a closet, the your junk closet that you throw things in when you're trying to clean up your house before friends come over. There's a bunch of stuff you don't know what to do with. You need to get it out of sight because it's clutter. And so you shove it in the back of this closet. And over the years, you don't clean out the closet. You just keep shoving stuff in there that you don't know what to do with. So the closet becomes a big junk closet that's full of junk, and you don't even look in there. But the problem is we've got that kind of compartment in our minds that we put those feelings into, and we keep on shoving uncomfortable feelings that we don't want to deal with into that junk compartment in our minds. And the problem is, so let me relate it to you this way. If you shove enough stuff in your closet in your house, and I've had this happen, you get to the point where it's pushing against the door and you open it up to try and shove something else in there and stuff starts falling out.
It explodes. Yeah.
It explodes. And then you got to deal with the stuff because you can't put any more in there. And you may open it to get something out and everything else comes falling out. So it's like that in our brains, especially with PTSD. And it's why my professor said you can't just put it back in. That
Mm.
that feelings started to just pour out that didn't make any sense to me because I had opened the door a little bit to shove something else in there and just everything came popping out. So it's the closet of really uncomfortable feelings that you never put in a narrative to.
um, yeah, that's a beautiful analogy. We had a therapist here the other day, and I think her analogy was feelings are like farts. You need to let you need to fart. You need to let them out. But I think the closet analogy is a little bit more classy. But they both work. They both kind of represent the same thing, right? You need to sort it out. Otherwise, at some
Yes.
point, it's gonna explode. So, Linda, may I ask you for how many years have you just stuffed in your closet, and how long did it take you until?
Well, so I think I probably started stuffing things when I was a kid. I had my grandmother lived across the street from us, and she was my special person as a kid. There were a lot of kids in my family. My mother, I was close to her, but she was always busy.